Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. This is the first day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching that's titled Harmony in Relationships. Throughout this course, I'm going to be sharing content with you guys, teachings from the Buddha that are going to help you to understand how to build harmony in your relationships. The Buddha figured out how to get to enlightenment over 2,500 years ago. And as part of getting to enlightenment, what you'll notice is you get to a point where your mind no longer experiences any discontent feelings. You will eliminate all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by something external, but it's actually being caused by what's going on in your own mind. So you can actually remove the causes and conditions that are producing this and actually get to a point where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, and serene. You'll notice that there's joy and the mind is glad and cheerful and uplifted at all times. You also notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory because your mind's going to be performing optimally. And your relationships will all be harmonious. Your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming. In the unenlightened state, you have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility in the mind. And when you put that out, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. You're going to have difficulties and struggles in your relationships. So what you'll notice is when you're training your mind and you're transforming your mind, that you're going to get rid of that bitterness and hostility, and you won't be putting that out in your relationships. Again, oftentimes people think that that's being caused by someone else, but it's actually being caused by what's going on in your own mind. And you can eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing that, so that way all your relationships can really blossom. They can be at ease. You'll get to a point where you're not even in a bad mood anymore, that it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. So this course of harmony in relationships, sometimes when people hear that, they think that maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on changing other people and getting other people to do things a certain way. But that's not what this course is about. This course is about you and helping you to train your mind and you transforming your mind. Because by you transforming your mind, and making different choices about how you interact with others, it will change the way that you experience relationships with people. So I'm going to introduce you to the course and help you guys to understand what it is that I'm going to be teaching. And then this morning, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing the core central teaching of the Buddha, which is called the Eightfold Path. This is a teaching that you would need to know inside and out in order to be able to make your way towards this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful and you have harmonious relationships. And then we're going to end up taking a break in the morning where we'll take kind of like a mid-morning break, give you guys a chance to talk with each other, use the restrooms, whatever you'd like to do, have some snacks, take a walk outside. Then we'll come back and we'll finish up the Eightfold Path. We're going to take a lunch break. And then when we come back, I'm going to share with you something called the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots. This gives you kind of a broad idea, but really kind of a deeper idea of understanding what's going on in your mind and why you experience difficulties in relationships. And before we do any of that, though, I'm going to guide you in a meditation session. We start each one of our classes with meditation. So if you'd like to actually join in the meditation, I have chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. I start with some chanting in order to ease the mind into meditation. For those of you guys online, you'll find these chanting sheets on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books, and about 2/3 of the way down the page, you'll actually see the chanting sheets there. What you're doing when you're chanting is you're easing the mind into meditation and getting more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer. There's none of those things associated with the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those things connected to what the Buddha taught, those aren't his actual teachings. People are adding those things in over time. The Buddha never taught rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. So today we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used it as a learning tool, as a learning device in order to commit the teachings to memory. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be ego or arrogance and putting yourself above other people. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't do that any longer. Your mind has eliminated that ego. So I know the Buddha wouldn't have created these chants. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. And that's why I think these actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance where you'll hear me essentially teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. But then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Everybody here at the temple and anyone who's joining us online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. Someone here might call for a sneeze. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. That's why you can actually eliminate these feelings, because it's the mind itself that is causing it. The mind is craving permanence, but yet you live in an impermanent world. The world's constantly changing around you. You're not going to be able to experience an environment where it's permanently quiet. So these sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. And if you're in meditation understanding that the world is impermanent, when you hear a sound, you can be at ease because you can understand the world's functioning exactly the way it was intended to function. Then after we have that period of time of quietness, we'll come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, introducing you to the course and then all the other things that I mentioned we're going to be doing throughout the day. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. I have various courses and retreats where I help you to learn all 4 of these positions. But what I'll do is just kind of introduce you to the seated position in case this might be the first time you're kind of getting started with these teachings. You'll hear some things that can maybe help you to find something that's even more comfortable than you already have. Just keep in mind that what I'm sharing with you are just suggestions, they're recommendations, because there's not just one fixed way to actually sit. If there was only one way to sit, that would be permanence, and we don't live in that world. Everybody's body is a bit different, and they're going to find different things to be comfortable. So you can sit however you like. You're interested in the body being comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but comfortable, which is in the middle. So you could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just decide to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation in the lower body and cause pain. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. So you might decide to do that. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If you would like to use this and it's comfortable for you, great. If not, there's other options here. Because remember, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair, or if you're at home on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. Or if you were real rigid with the upper body, your mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to get started with some chanting here. You guys are welcome to join in. Then I'll come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Otang Mahakawanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakawato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. Nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start focusing the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Emakewa Bhutang Mahakewanang Abhivateyami Savakato Emakevata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Emakevato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sekato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusrang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see you all here. Welcome to everyone online. This is just a short little meditation just to kind of get us started for our course. As you guys continue, if you continue each day in the course, you'll see that these meditations get longer and longer each time. We're going to be more meditating in the morning and also in the afternoon, helping you to build up your practice so that you'll have a lot of momentum moving into future weeks where you'll actually be meditating on your own and you won't be part of a class. So you'll see that you'll be able to kind of build up your meditation practice as part of this course. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to the course so that you can understand what it is that I'm going to be sharing. And then ultimately, we're going to move into the very first teaching of the Buddha, helping you guys to understand the Eightfold Path. So our course is meeting each day from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You'll see that I start right at 9 o'clock. We take a mid-morning break usually. Then we have a lunch break, and then we come back and we finish up right around 3 o'clock. So this is my contact information. If you would like to contact me for any reason, it's more so for after the course, because if you're coming to class, great, you'll be here, I'll teach you. If you're not coming to class, that's okay, that's fine. You don't have to send me a message. I don't take attendance or anything like that, right? So if you'd like to contact me after our course, this is the way to do that. And our website is really like a central hub, and this information and other information is on our website, so you can see all of this same information from our website as well. The way that our course is structured is each morning we start at 9 a.m. and we do the chanting and meditation like we did this morning. Today I gave you guys a little bit of an introduction, but mostly what we're going to be doing is just starting right in at 9 o'clock with the chanting. So now when you guys come in, if you'd like to chant along in the meditation, you know where the chanting sheets are. You can just grab one and then you can just join for the meditation at 9 o'clock. Then at 9:30, I'm going to be switching over and sharing teachings with you guys that are going to help you to develop harmony in your relationships. talk about the teachings. The way that I think about this is it's more of a discussion. It's not a lecture or a sermon or anything like that. It's more of a discussion where I'm sharing information with you. You're learning that information and then being able to ask questions to get clarity on what it is that I'm sharing with you. Some people refer to this as a Dhamma talk. The word Dhamma means teachings. So this is a talk about the teachings. Then we usually take a mid-morning break somewhere around 10:30, 11. You'll see that I take a break around that time. Then we come back and I share some more. And then we generally take a lunch break around 12, sometimes a little bit later, sometimes a little bit earlier, but generally around 12 o'clock. Each time we go to lunch, I'll let you know how long it's going to be, but generally we usually shoot for an hour and a half lunch each time. That way it gives you a good long time to rest and relax and spend time with your friends and do whatever you need to do, whether it's get food or anything else. Sometimes people even hang out here as part of their lunch, so you're welcome to hang out here. You might even see people taking a nap sometimes. Feel free to use this space however you like during the lunch breaks or any other time. This is a learning center. It's a place where you can come and feel comfortable to be at home. This classroom doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to all of us, right? So feel free to use this space as you like. Then at 1:30 or whatever time we get back from lunch, we will start with meditation again, where I'll do a meditation session with you guys in the afternoon, and then I'll have another talk about the teachings. And then we'll generally finish up around 3 o'clock. Sometimes, again, a little bit earlier, maybe sometimes a little bit later. It just depends on what we're discussing in the class. In terms of what I'm going to be teaching you, half of this course is based in this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can actually get this for free from our website. You can download it. You can take it and go print it if you like. If you like a printed version, we have them here that you can just reimburse us for the printing costs. That way we can use that to purchase more books. You can also get this on Amazon. If your country has access to Amazon, you can get it there. So the first part of this course covers chapters 4, 5, 8, 11, 13, 14, and 15. But then the whole other half of the course, it was never written about. I never wrote any books or any content about this course because to describe harmony in relationships and how to build harmony, it's not really something that you can easily write about because it's not like a cookie cutter. It's not like every single situation is the same. It's not like the Buddha's giving you a decision tree. He's not saying, if this happens, do that. And if this happens, do that. That means there'd be a permanent answer for every situation. And that's not true because there's multiple variables in each situation that you're encountering. So the content that I'm going to be sharing with you, it's not really been written about in terms of developing harmony in your relationships. But all these slides and everything that I'm using, you can actually get those as well. They're on our website. If you go to our website and click on free books, if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see the PDFs for all the courses and retreats and programs that I teach. They're all there. They're in workbook format. There's even a printer right here next to the temple that if you'd like to have a workbook and take notes in, you can actually do that as well. So you can get access to what it is that I'm teaching you. It's just not in a book in kind of written format. So this is the first book of a 13-book series, which oftentimes students tell me they read this book many times. I've had students that have been studying with me for many years, and they tell me that they read this book 8, 10, 12 different times, and each time they read it, they glean some new information from it. So this isn't the kind of book that you just kind of plow through and you just kind of read it in 1 or 2 weeks and you're done with it. Instead, I would encourage you to take your time to gradually make your way through this book, because oftentimes people, when they're reading a book like a storybook or a novel, they will, just kind of hurry up and try to get to the end because they want to see what the end of the story is. Well, I'll tell you guys what the end of the story is for this particular book. The end of the story is that you get to enlightenment. That's the end of the story. So now that you know the end of the story, take your time and gradually walk your way through a book like this, because you're not reading just for completion. You're reading to be able to understand. You're reading to be able to independently verify what it is that you're learning is true. You're not interested in believing anything that's being taught, whether it's from books, whether it's from me, whether it's from anybody else. You're not interested in believing anything. So you need to be able to independently verify what it is that you're learning, and it's going to take you time to gradually walk your way through this book. In terms of what I'm going to be sharing in the course, this morning we're going to be starting out with the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha. I'm going to be sharing the teachings with you that the Buddha taught on this important topic. It's a core central teaching that everything else that the Buddha taught plugs into this. So if you're interested in doing anything with the teachings of the Buddha, you would need to know this teaching inside and out, backwards and forwards, left, right, up, down. I'm going to help you guys to understand that, sharing the original words of the Buddha. When I teach, I base everything that I share in the original words of the Buddha. That might sound obvious to you, right? That's like, well, of course, if you're going to teach Buddhism, how else would you teach it other than with the original words of the Buddha? Well, you'd be surprised to hear that the vast majority of the world actually doesn't study the original words of the Buddha. There's about 500 million people in the world that consider what they're doing to be Buddhist, and a very, 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 very small percentage of them actually study with the original words of the Buddha. I've been to over 200 temples in my life, and I've only ever been to one temple that actually shares the original words of the Buddha. And if you do the math, that's less than 1%. So I'm going to share with you these teachings using the original words of the Buddha, so you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. And I'm going to walk you through it in a way that you can intellectually understand it through investigation and examination. Then I'm going to show you how to reflect to verify whether what the Buddha taught is true or false. And then I'm going to show you how to practice it, integrating it into your day-to-day life, because that's where you actually experience the real results. If you're just learning intellectually, you're not actually going to experience the life and transformation that the Buddha is sharing with you and helping you to be able to achieve, because you need to actually practice his teachings, training the mind. And that's where you really experience the real results. Then this afternoon, I'm going to share with you transforming the three poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. This is where you really broaden your understanding of what's going on in the mind and really deepen it. And here I'm going to also be focusing on solutions to be able to help you to be able to understand how to transform the mind away from this. Then I'm going to teach you how to identify cravings, desires, attachments that are in your own mind, so you can almost surgically go in and remove those out of the mind, because that's the actual cause of what's producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. You'll understand that here this morning after I share the Eightfold Path with you. Then I'm going to share with you something sometimes referred to as the Brahma Viharas. I think of these as 4 healthy mental states. This is loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. This is where the Buddha gets kind of the reputation of almost being like a doctor, that there are certain symptoms that he discovered in the mind, and then there's a certain prescription or an antidote. But you are your own best doctor. So if you understand what the symptoms are that you'll experience in your mind, and then you understand the prescription that's going to fix that, now you can apply that. So I'm going to teach you this so that you can be your own best doctor. Then the real focal point of this course is understanding true love, love without attachment. Right now, if you're falling in love and out of love with people, or if you think love hurts and love is painful, you're not understanding what true love is right now. And because of that, you'll have difficulties and struggles in your relationships. One of the things that the Buddha discovered in the unenlightened mind is that the unenlightened mind lacks wisdom. And one of the things that it lacks wisdom about is what is true love. And because of that, people oftentimes think that they're falling in love and out of love with people, or they think love hurts and love is painful. And because of not understanding what love is and not practicing true love in your day-to-day life, then you'll experience difficulties in your relationships. So by understanding what true love is and starting to practice this more and more, you'll see that you'll have more fulfilling and satisfying relationships. So I'm going to help you guys to understand that on Wednesday morning. Then I'm going to teach you how to practice these teachings in situations where other people are not practicing these teachings, because it's wonderful to come here and meet people that are interested in becoming a better person and training their mind and learning how to be loving and kind and compassionate. But what do you do when you go out there in the world and there's people who aren't practicing these teachings? So I'm going to help you guys to understand that. Then I'm going to teach you how to eliminate attachment to the people who are closest to you. Attachment is what's going on in your mind. It's not just the fact that you're in a relationship. It's what's going on in your own mind. If you have a certain longing or yearning, or your emotions are attached to somebody else, that means you can only be happy when that person does things your way, or when that person is in your life. So I'm going to help you to understand how to eliminate this attachment so that your mind can be free of basing its inner feelings on what this other person does or what this other person doesn't do. And this is going to help you to actually get to more harmony in your relationships. Then I'm going to share with you how to share this path with children. It's titled with children. And some of you guys maybe don't have children, or maybe you're not ever interested in having children. So this particular topic, while it's geared towards guiding children on the path, it actually can be helpful in other situations too. If you're interested in giving guidance to your life partner, or your nieces and nephews, or your parents, or your brothers and sisters, or a coworker. So even though it's titled How to Share the Path with Children, you'll actually be able to use the same content to share the path with anybody, not just children. Then I'm going to teach you how to choose wholesome friends and a life partner. The Buddha teaches this as a real focal point of the path. If you make unwise choices about who to spend time with in terms of your friends and a life partner, it's going to impact you in unfortunate ways and unwholesome ways. So you need to learn how to select people wisely that are going to be involved in your life, and this is going to impact what you experience on a day-to-day basis. But you need to be able to do this without conceit and without judgment, without looking down on people. So I'm going to teach you how to make wise choices about who to involve in your life while not judging them and not looking down on people. Then I'm going to teach you how to practice these teachings in the workplace. If you are only practicing these teachings in your day-to-day life, like personally at home, you actually wouldn't experience enlightenment. You're going to need to practice these same teachings in the workplace too. Other people aren't going to necessarily know that you're practicing the teachings. You're just going to be experiencing all kinds of success in your career. But you're going to need to practice these teachings in the workplace as well. And now your practice is fully developed. So I'm going to help you to understand that. Then we're going to get to this topic of the art of the friendly no. How to say no without saying no. One of the things that the unenlightened mind really struggles with is if somebody invites you to a party and you say, no, I can't come to your party. Oftentimes people get really hurt by that. It's not you that's causing their painful feelings. It's what's going on in their own mind, but they don't necessarily realize that. And now sometimes what they'll do is they'll push you away. They'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they'll start trying to pressure you to be able to get what it is that they want. So when you are saying no to people, like, no, I can't let you borrow money, or no, I can't come to your party, or anything like this, oftentimes you're going to meet with difficulties and struggles. So I'm going to teach you how to say no to people without saying no in these kinds of situations. And it's a real skillful way to be able to step away from a certain situation and not participate, but you're doing it in a way that is helpful and beneficial so that you can preserve the relationship. So I'll teach you guys this as we get to that point. We're going to be focused on sharing breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. Mostly what we're going to be doing is loving kindness meditation in the morning, even though we did breathing mindfulness today. But tomorrow I'm going to be teaching you loving kindness meditation, helping you guys to understand what that is and why you would practice it and how to do it. And then each morning we're going to be actually doing loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that actually transforms your mind away from anger, hatred, and ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike. If you have dislike in your mind towards another person, it's actually coming from your own mind. Oftentimes people think it's coming from the other person, but it's actually coming from your own mind that you're having that dislike towards this person. And you can actually transform that. And loving kindness meditation will help you get to the point where you can be loving and kind with all the people around you. And now more and more, this is going to help improve your relationships. So these are the two meditations that we're going to be doing with breathing mindfulness meditation in the afternoon typically. And then you can do these meditations in the seated, lying, standing, and walking positions if you've learned these, or if you'd like to learn these, you can come talk to me, but I teach these in other programs. In this particular course, I don't teach these. I just kind of do seated with you guys, but some of you guys already know the lying or standing or walking, so you could do that. The loving kindness meditation is typically done in seated, lying, or standing. It's not usually done in the walking position, but you can use any of these that you like. And then you'll be exposed to Buddhist chanting along the way. There's courses, again, where I actually teach Buddhist chanting, but in this course, we just do it rather than actually teaching it. And then towards the very end, I'm going to teach you how to get continued support on the path to enlightenment, because nobody's going to experience harmonious relationships at the end of this course, right? You can't study for 5 days and then immediately all your relationships are going to be harmonious. It's going to take gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress to gradually move your mind closer and closer to enlightenment and gradually move your relationships to the point where they are harmonious. So you're going to need continued support beyond this, and I'll show you guys how to experience that. And then I'm also going to teach you how to take the things that I taught you here and integrate it into your day-to-day life. Because if you learn in a course like this and you get to the end of the course and you do nothing and nothing changes in your life, okay, it was a nice 5 days to spend with you. But if you actually take the things from this course and you integrate it into your day-to-day life, that's where you're going to actually experience the real results and the real benefit, because you're now using the tools and the techniques that the Buddha is teaching you and actually helping to improve your life and improve what's going on in your mind and improve your relationships. So do you guys have any questions on what it is I'm going to be sharing over the next 5 days? No questions? Okay. I don't see any online either. All right. So I'll move into this first teaching of the Eightfold Path. This is the path for all humans to enlightenment. The whole reason why the mind is in the unenlightened state is the Buddha discovered these 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind. They're referred to as the 10 fetters. He referred to them as the fetters because during his lifetime, if you were someone that they were trying to keep confined to a certain area, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. What a fetter is a shackle and a chain and a ball. And then they would just keep you out on a field. Where today we put people like this in prisons or jail cells, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they just attached a shackle around your ankle and it was a chain and a ball, and they just kept you in an open field. So when he discovers these 10 pollutions and what's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state, he calls them fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state. And just like a prisoner, if you release the shackle off their ankle, they're now free and they can roam about the world and they can do whatever they would like to do. They're completely free. The mind is the same way. When you eliminate these 10 fetters or these pollutions out of the mind is now free. It's liberated. Where when you have these fetters or these pollutions in your mind's all bound up. So what this Eightfold Path is designed to do is it's designed to give you the baseline tools that you need to be able to uproot these pollutions out of the mind. At some point in your journey, you're going to need to know what each one of these pollutions are and how to eliminate them. I actually teach this as part of the various courses and programs and retreats that I share. Here, we don't really go into the fetters in any kind of detail, but just understand that that's what this Eightfold Path is working towards. It's kind of like a generalized training to uproot these pollutions out of your mind. And that's what's actually going to help you to get to harmonious relationships and get to enlightenment. The way that you might think about it is that if you had the sun and there were clouds in front of the sun, if you peeled away these clouds, the rays of the sun are going to shine through more and more and more. So one of the ways to think about it is that your mind is actually already enlightened. The natural state of the mind is actually enlightened, but you have these pollutions that are in the way that are hindering you from being able to experience those qualities. And as you peel away these pollutions of the mind, the qualities of enlightenment start shining through more and more. The only difference in the analogy here is with the clouds and the sun, the clouds are going to come back and block the sun. But the way that these pollutions work is once you get them out of the mind, they're never able to actually come back and repollute the mind, that they're completely eradicated out of the mind. But you'll start seeing more and more of the qualities of enlightenment shining through. So sometimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. He explains it in his teachings that it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that he gradually moved his mind to enlightenment. This is how you can see the results and the benefits of his teachings. As you implement them, you'll gradually see the mind experiencing more and more improvement because you're gradually getting rid of these pollutions, bringing them down more and more and more. So this Eightfold Path is a core central teaching that's helping you to be able to understand how to move the mind to enlightenment by getting rid of these pollutions. There's 8 individual factors that you learn. It's right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. It's organized into 3 sections: the wisdom section, the moral conduct section, and the mental discipline section. I'm going to walk you through each part of this. One of the ways to also think about this is that if you had a speaker system and you were trying to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers, there might be these 8 dials that you kind of tweak these 8 dials to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. Your mind is the same way. These are 8 individual dials that you can tweak these dials and get a better performing mind. So as you learn each one of these, based in the original words of the Buddha, you can integrate the teachings into your life and actually apply it to be able to get your mind to perform more and more optimally. It starts with right view, and we're going to spend some time to make sure that you understand right view, because this is the very first teaching of the Buddha, helping you to understand right view. This is going to be the path to enlightenment. You're going to need to really understand this, but it's going to take you more than just one time of learning it to be able to commit it to your memory and be able to get to the point where you're actually practicing it regularly. This might be the first time you've ever learned it with me, but for other people, you guys might have learned this before, and this is maybe your second or third or fourth, or sometimes people learn it 5, 6, 8 times, really working with it because you really like to commit this teaching to your memory. This is what's going to guide you to harmonious relationships and a better performing mind so that you can experience peace and joy in the enlightened mental state. So as we go, I'm going to be pausing a few times to open up for questions. If you guys have questions here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the center of the room, and there's also some up here as well. Just get a microphone, take it back to your seat, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. You can hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that would be great so that we don't get feedback through the speakers. And you can keep these with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share it with them. And then for those of you guys that are online, if you would like to ask a question, you can put it in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. So when you're learning the teachings of the Buddha, he teaches you not to believe any of his teachings. With belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. Belief won't lead to enlightenment. So the Buddha is not teaching you a bunch of beliefs and then hoping something good happens when you die. He's also not teaching you rules and commandments to follow. That's not the way you're going to be able to get to enlightenment. And he's not teaching you rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. He's teaching you wisdom about the world around you and how the world actually works. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, what this means is to cultivate wisdom. You need to cultivate wisdom about the world around you, because when you don't understand the world around you, you'll struggle. You'll have difficulties. That's what the stress and the anxiety and the frustration, the guilt, the shame, the fear, all those feelings are occurring because the mind lacks wisdom. It's struggling to live in a world that it doesn't understand. It's like when we were children and we didn't understand the natural law of gravity. We fell down, we bumped our elbows, we hit our head, we broke our toys, and we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand this world that we lived in. But slowly but surely, you might say that we awakened to the natural law of gravity. We cultivated wisdom about this natural law, and we started making better decisions with that newfound wisdom. And because of that, we started experiencing better results. We started learning to tie our shoes really tight. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. We looked at the surface of the sidewalk as we walk, and now we can do all these things like climb a ladder, we can ride bicycles, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world, because you might say that we're fully awake to the natural law of gravity. And that's why we don't struggle with it anymore. In fact, if we fall down, we might even start laughing as an adult, whereas a kid, we were crying, we were upset, we didn't understand the world that we lived in, we were struggling and having difficulties. So when you lack wisdom of natural laws, you will struggle and have difficulties. There's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of these natural laws or not. Just like the natural law of gravity. It affected us whether we're aware of it or not. There's natural laws that the Buddha taught that are affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. And that's why when I teach, you're not interested in believing what it is that I share. You need to cultivate wisdom to be able to understand what it is that I'm sharing with you. So what you do is you learn, examine, and investigate the teachings. I'm going to do that with you by sharing them with you. Then you need to reflect on these teachings to independently verify if they're true or they're false. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then you need to practice the teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And that's where you're going to see the real transformation. And that's where you're going to know, oh my gosh, these teachings are so true. They actually work. So you're not interested in believing anything that I say, anything that I write in books, anything that anybody else says. You need to be able to see the truth for yourself. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee. You are an independent practitioner who's looking for wisdom, to cultivate wisdom. What I am essentially like a tour guide. I'm pointing out for you the things that you need to learn, and it's up to you to be able to actively work to learn that. So the Buddha teaches you that when you approach his teachings, to listen with eager ears, that you're actively looking to learn and understand his teachings. Because if you were to just sit back and let the teachings kind of roll over your head, you're not going to experience the transformation that is available for you. But if you listen with eager ears, where you're actively looking to learn, and now you're learning, reflecting, and practicing, this is where you'll see the real transformation. So I'm going to start you out with the right view, helping you to understand this and gradually walking you through it. Again, using the original words of the Buddha. So here's what the Buddha taught on right view. He says, "In what, monks, is right view? It is, monks, the wisdom of discontentedness, the wisdom of the cause of discontentedness, the wisdom of the elimination of discontentedness, and the wisdom of the way of practice leading to the elimination of discontentedness. This is called right view." So what he's doing here in the Eightfold Path is he's pointing to another teaching, and he's saying that's right view over there. What he's doing is he's pointing to what's called the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is the very first beginning teaching of the Buddha. If you were going to go hiking, there's usually like at the hiking trail, there's usually like a trail marker at the beginning of the trail that's going to kind of tell you like, all right, walk down this trail, 2 kilometers, turn right, you're going to walk over a stream, you're going to walk over a bridge, you're going to walk over a mountain, you're going to circle back, and now you're going to come back to the parking lot. It's going to take you about 3 hours on this hike. There's kind of like a trail marker there. Well, the Four Noble Truths is like the trail marker. It's helping you to be able to understand the whole rest of the path and what needs to happen for you to be able to move your mind to enlightenment. So rather than the Buddha putting the entire Four Noble Truths here in the Eightfold Path, he just puts these statements here, the sentence, where he's pointing to the Four Noble Truths, and he's saying that is actually right view. So what I've done here underneath of this line is I've put the top section of the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths goes on from here, but I've put this top section so that you can build the confidence that what the Buddha is talking about in the Eightfold Path as right view is the Four Noble Truths. You can see this connection between what he's saying in the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the Four Noble Truths so that you can understand them. But in order to teach you the Four Noble Truths, I need to first teach you the 3 universal truths. These are like building blocks to help you to be able to understand the Four Noble Truths when we get to it. We call it the 3 universal truths and the Four Noble Truths because the Buddha knew that they were true. I know that they're true, and other people know that they're true. But in order for you to benefit, you need to know that they're true. And that's why you're not interested in believing it. You're looking to cultivate this wisdom. So the Buddha here is going to explain to you these 3 universal truths that are independently verifiable, and you can cultivate wisdom. He's not explaining to you the way the world should be, and now if everybody follows these rules and commandments, the world's going to become a better place. He's explaining to you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, you cultivate that wisdom. Now you can navigate the world more peacefully. So here, this first universal truth, I'll show you how this learning, reflection, and practice works. He's explaining to you that the world is impermanent, that things are constantly changing, that there's something called conditioned objects. What a conditioned object is that it arises, it changes, and then it fades away. This is called a conditioned object. It is impermanent. It's temporary. It's not lasting. It's going to constantly change. Anything that you see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, they are all impermanent. It's constantly changing. This is the nature of the world. Then there's something called unconditioned objects. Unconditioned objects do not change, they do not fade away, and they do not, they do not arise, they do not change, and they do not fade away. They are actually permanent. So sometimes people think that the Buddha said everything is impermanent. Here, what I'm saying is everything in the world is impermanent. What I mean by that is everything in the material world, anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body or any thoughts or ideas, these are all impermanent. But there actually are things that are permanent. They're called unconditioned objects. Enlightenment itself, by the time you get to enlightenment, the mental state of enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. When you get to enlightenment, you will never again experience anger, sadness, frustration, or any of these other feelings. It's physically impossible for you to experience it. Also, the natural laws that the Buddha explained 2,500 years ago, those are also unconditioned. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. This is why his teachings are timeless. What he taught 2,500 years ago is just as applicable today as it was 2,500 years ago, because what the Buddha is describing is the natural laws. And these natural laws haven't changed in 2,500 years because they're unconditioned. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. So enlightenment and the natural laws are the two unconditioned objects that exist in the world. Everything else is a conditioned object. It arises, it changes, and it fades away. Anything you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind. Okay, so this is a bit of the intellectual learning on the universal truth of impermanence, where I'm describing everything's constantly changing. But you don't believe that. You're not interested in believing it. You need to start moving it into reflection to verify, is this true or is this false? Because if this is a universal truth, you should be able to independently verify it. So here's what I suggest you do. That you take something that you're familiar with to start with, like this physical body. Ask yourself, is this permanent or is it impermanent? If this body is permanent, that means it's been exactly the same your entire life. If this body is impermanent, then that means it's been constantly changing. So what would you say? Is this body permanent or is it impermanent? You say impermanent? What do the rest of you guys say? Impermanent? Yeah, right? We get taller, we get shorter, we get bigger, we get smaller. When we were first born, we didn't have any teeth, right? So our teeth grew in, that's change. And then they fell out, that's change. Then they grew in again, that's change. And now you get cavities every once in a while, that's change. You get pimples, wrinkles, moles, you get gray hair, you start losing your hair, right? This is all change, right? The physical body is constantly changing. What would you say about your relationships? Are your relationships permanent, meaning you've had exactly the same people in your life your entire life? Or are your relationships impermanent, meaning people have been coming and going in and out of your life? What would you say? They're impermanent, right? People are constantly coming and going. What about your bank account? Is your bank account permanent or impermanent? What's that? It's permanently rising. It never goes down. Never. Okay. Well, that's change, right? It's constantly going up, right? That's change. That's impermanence. It's constantly going up, right? It's changing. Some people's goes up, up, up. Some people's goes down, down, down. Some people's goes up and then down and up and down. This is constant change. What about the weather? Is the weather permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? Constantly changing. So we could go on and on and on like this. And this is what you need to do in order to be able to verify this, you should. You should look around the world and try to verify if you can find something that is permanent other than what I've described, right? So when you look outside and you see green leaves in the tree and you see brown leaves on the ground, that's impermanence. That's change. When you're walking down the sidewalk and you see a crack in the sidewalk, that's change, right? Here in Thailand, some sidewalks kind of go up and some sidewalks go down. They're not necessarily flat and steady, right? They're constantly changing. Some streets have sidewalks, some streets don't. Here at the temple, you can see the wood planks in the floor. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter, some of them are one color, some of them are a different color, right? We started out with a certain number of people in the class, and now more people have joined us, right? That's change. Right? There's going to be constant change in your life. So you need to be able to independently verify this. Okay. Then there's the second universal truth. It's called discontentedness. Now, if you've studied the teachings of the Buddha in other places, you might have heard the word suffering being used. I don't use this word, and I'll explain to you the reason why, but let me first help you to understand what the Buddha taught here so that you can understand it. In the original source teachings, which are in the Pali language, the word that's being used is dukkha. This translates to discontent, discontented, or discontentedness. When the Buddha describes this, he's describing what the unenlightened mind experiences. There's pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. These are called conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, the mind is going to experience a feeling. What the pleasant feelings are things like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, or euphoria. It's very pleasurable for you to experience that. Then there's painful feelings. Sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. These are very painful for the mind to experience. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant. I put boredom and loneliness here. Some people say that's very painful for them. So you could put that in the painful category if you like. But shyness is a good example. It's not painful. It's not pleasant. It's neither painful nor pleasant. Or say you're on public transportation and somebody you don't know comes and sits really, really close to you and your body's touching their body. You might say, it's not painful. It's not pleasant. Your mind's kind of dissatisfied or uncomfortable in that situation. That's neither painful nor pleasant. So this is what the Buddha is describing as the unenlightened mind, that you're experiencing conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, you're then going to experience a feeling. So for example, if you look outside and it's sunny and you get really happy and excited about that, that's a conditioned feeling. It's conditional happiness. That the condition is that it's sunny, and because it's sunny, your mind's now going to form the feeling of happiness. But the problem with this is that when the sun goes away, you're not happy anymore because the sun is not permanent. So if you base your feelings of happiness on the sun, then that means your happiness is not permanent. This is the reason why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness in your life, because the mind is forming its inner feelings based on some external circumstance. So if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. So in the unenlightened state, you'll wake up in the morning, you'll see it's sunny, you'll get really happy and excited. Like, wow, I'm going to go hiking today. There's this hiking trail I've been wanting to go on. Oh man, I can't wait to get out there on the trail. Man, this is going to be great. I'm going to call my friends. This is going to be a great time. And then you'll go take a shower. And when you come out of the shower, it's raining. And now you'll be sad and frustrated and angry that you can't go hiking, right? This is what the unenlightened mind experiences. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. But the enlightened mental state is beyond this. You're no longer experiencing conditional feelings. You're experiencing unconditioned mental states where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You're experiencing unconditional happiness. You're beyond the conditional feelings, that there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for you to experience the happiness and the joy. So the enlightened being who wakes up in the morning, they're already happy before they even see that it's sunny outside. And now they see it's sunny outside. It's like, sweet, I'm going to go hiking today. This is going to be a great time. I've been interested in going on this trail for a while. I'm going to call my friends. This is going to be outstanding. And now you go take a shower. And when you come out and you see that it's raining, you're like, it's raining. Well, guess I'm not going hiking today. You can maintain your joy, right? It's like, maybe I'll go to the mall. Maybe I'll stay home and read a book. Maybe I'll invite my friends over and we'll make some food and we'll have a great time here at home. You can maintain your joy because your joy, your happiness is unconditional. It wasn't based on the sun. So when the sun is no longer there, you can still maintain your joy and your peace, right? So this is called discontentedness. In the unenlightened state, you will experience conditioned feelings. You will form your feelings based on external circumstances, and your mind's going to go up and down and up and down. It's happy and excited, but then it's frustrated or annoyed, then it's irritated, then you're embarrassed, then you're disappointed. There's some peace and calm here and there, but it's only a matter of time before you become frustrated or annoyed or agitated about something. Okay, so this is called discontent, discontented, and discontentedness. This is where you understand the mind is shaken up. It's unsteady, it's uncalm. So I don't use the word suffering here. If you've been exposed to that in other places, the reason why is because the word suffering only describes the painful feelings. That's what the word suffering describes, the anger, the sadness, the frustration. But the Buddha was describing much more when he's talking about this universal truth. He's talking about conditioned pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. So if you use the word suffering, you're only understanding 1/3 of what the Buddha actually taught. That means you're missing 66% of his teachings. If you're missing 66% of a teacher's teachings, how could you ever experience the ultimate goal that he's guiding you towards? So if say your boss came into your office and said, hey, I'm going to give you a raise. You've been doing such a good job. I'm going to give you another $100,000 raise per year. And you got really happy and excited about that. You probably wouldn't say you were suffering. Right? Or say that person who you don't know comes and sits really close to you on public transportation and your body's touching their body. Would you say you were suffering in that situation? Probably not. So again, if you use the word suffering, you're only describing the painful feelings. You're not understanding the pleasant feelings and the neither painful nor pleasant feelings. That your mind actually is shaken up whenever it's discontent. You need to be able to get to the point where you can see that the conditional pleasant feelings are just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones. If you allow your mind to experience conditional happiness, that means the painful feelings are waiting for you right around the corner. So for example, if you get so happy and excited when you get that brand new job that you just got, it's a perfect job, it's the best title, the salary, the office location, the company's mission, the coworkers, outstanding. You're just so excited to go to that job. Well, 3 years later, 5 years later, when they go out of business and they lay you off, you're going to be angry. You're going to be sad. You're going to be frustrated. So if you allow your mind to experience conditional happiness, that means the painful feelings are waiting for you because whatever you're forming your happiness on, that condition is not permanent. And when it changes, you're going to end up in the painful feelings. So you need to be able to see the conditional pleasant feelings as just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones, because you'll never eliminate the painful feelings if you don't eliminate the conditionality of the pleasant ones. So you need to be willing to let go of the temporary happiness in order to be able to get to the permanent happiness and the permanent joy, the unconditioned happiness. So that's why I use the word discontent. If you've ever been so excited, like you tripped and fell, then you know what I'm talking about here, that your mind is shaken up, that it's unsteady and uncalm. So this is describing the unenlightened mind. But remember, you're not interested in believing it, right? You need to independently verify it. So ask yourself, is this what you experience? Because you know your mind's currently unenlightened. Are you experiencing any feeling that doesn't described here in the second universal truth? Is there any feeling that you experience that doesn't fit into one of these three categories? And if you think that there is, let's talk about it when we get to the question period. Okay. Now, the third universal truth. This is called the universal truth of non-self. I'll explain to you guys what this is, but let me first explain to you the problem that this is solving, because the universal truth of non-self is actually the solution to one of the problems that the Buddha discovered in the mind. Again, there's these 10 pollutions in the mind, the 10 fetters. The very first fetter, the very first pollution is called personal existence view. The universal truth of non-self is the solution to that. So let me explain to you what the problem is first, and then I'll explain to you the solution here. So the personal existence view, what this is this is where your mind is clinging to your body or the mind itself, a self-image or a self-identity. Your mind's clinging to this, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you can only feel comfortable if people are perceiving you the way that you want to be perceived. So, for example, if you've ever been in a social situation and you spilt something on your clothing and you were embarrassed by that, that's your personal existence view, that you could only be comfortable if you were being perceived the way that you want to be perceived by others. Or let's just say maybe you looked in a mirror and you saw a pimple or a wrinkle or a mole, or you saw a gray hair, or you saw that you were losing your hair. If you were shaken up by this is your personal existence view. Clinging to this self-image, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way, and you can only feel comfortable if you're being perceived that way. The mind's confused in the unenlightened state, thinking that this body is who you are, or this mind is who you are. And now you can only feel comfortable when you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived. Or say you're maybe at front of your closet and you're standing there thinking, who am I going to see today? And how do I want to look? And now you put on a certain set of clothes and you looked in the mirror and you're like, no, that's not it. And you put on another set of clothes and you're like, no, that's not it. And you put on a third set of clothes and you're like, okay, now I feel comfortable to go outside. This is your personal existence view. If you were like me when I was a kid, I used to get gel and mousse and I would run it through my hair and I would try to get every little hair in exactly the right spot before I'd go to school. And sometimes I did this for so long, I'd miss the school bus. Right? So this is personal existence view, not feeling comfortable unless you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived with your self-image. But then there's also a self-identity in the mind that your mind will cling to when you have personal existence view. This can be about your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, any number of things that your mind can actually cling to of who you think you are as a person. And now you can only be comfortable in those situations. So say, for example, you got together with a boyfriend or girlfriend. You might think in your mind, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend, or I am a husband, I am a wife. And now as long as you're in the relationship, there's a certain amount of comfort. But when you guys broke up, you didn't feel comfortable with I am single. And you might have felt like you wanted to hurry up and get right back into another relationship. Or say you're maybe at a restaurant and 2 tables over, someone's talking about your nationality. Maybe American or German or Chinese or Lithuanian or Spanish or Aussie. You know, maybe people say all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. I've never heard this before, but maybe somebody might say this, right? And now you get so excited. You're like, wow, they're talking about me, right? You get all these pleasant feelings. But then because of impermanence, it's only a matter of time before 2 tables over, somebody says something degrading and disparaging about the nationality that you have in your mind. And now you're going to think they're talking about you, and now you get frustrated and angry about that. So your mind can cling to any kind of identity in your mind. Maybe it's a job or occupation, like I am a police officer. If you hold on to this identity of I am a police officer, well, when you're doing the job, you feel great. But when you get laid off, when you get injured and you can't do the job anymore, when you retire, you feel like less of a person. You don't feel whole. Maybe you're driving a taxi and now you're disgruntled and frustrated because your mind is identifying with I am a police officer. But you're not doing that. You're not fulfilling that role. So the mind is conflicted and having difficulties in this situation. So what the Buddha teaches you is to eliminate this out of the mind, where you're no longer clinging to this body, thinking that this is who you are as a person, and you're not clinging to any kind of identity of who you think you are as a person, because then your mind can be free and you can be peaceful. But as long as you're clinging to any of this stuff, wanting it to be permanent, when you're experiencing change, your mind will have difficulties and struggles with that. So what personal existence view is where the mind's clinging to all of this self-image, self-identity, wanting it to be permanent, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way, and that's not going to happen. So the Buddha teaches you the universal truth of non-self, that there is no self, that this body is not you, this mind is not you, it's not who you are as a person. But the mind, with its confusion of personal existence view, it will cling to all of this, thinking that this is who you are. In fact, people sometimes have this so challenging that they might go to their family in their home country and they say, Mom, Dad, I don't know who I am anymore. I need to go find myself. I need to go find my true self. I need to go to Thailand and find myself. And they're like, all right, whatever, go for it. So they might come to a place like Thailand or some other place in the world, and they're trying to find themselves. And they might come here and they might spend 6 months or a year or whatever it is. And eventually they go home and they're like, yay, Mom and Dad, I found myself. I know who I am again. They actually haven't found themselves. They might have actually found new hobbies, new activities, new friends, new job, or something like this. But as soon as you cling to that and you think that that is who you are, when all that stuff changes, you'll be lost and confused. So the Buddha teaches you that there is no self, so that your mind can let go and no longer cling to any of this as who you are. In fact, sometimes people even cling to their choices and decisions. Right? Like say you've been taught that because you used drugs and alcohol in the past, maybe now you might think, I am an alcoholic or I am an addict. And I understand why people teach this, because they're trying to teach these individuals to never go back and use drugs and alcohol again, right? That's wise, to never use drugs and alcohol. But once you adopt that identity as who you think you are, this is where sometimes guilt and shame can come into the mind, where it's not true that I am not an alcoholic, I am not an addict. This being might have started to use drugs and alcohol in the past, and those were certain decisions that you made in the past. But those choices and decisions don't define who you are as a person. So if you allow your mind to adopt that identity, now you'll have certain struggles and difficulties with things like guilt and shame and other feelings like this. So that's why the Buddha teaches you to strip this out of the mind and get to a point where you realize non-self, that you realize that this body is not you, this mind is not you. There is a body, there is a mind, and they've come together for this existence, and we call that a person. And it's wise to take care of this body, but it's important to not see it as that's who you are as a person. Okay? So this is a little bit of the intellectual understanding of the universal truth of non-self. Now, sometimes people understand this. When I first start talking about it, sometimes people don't. And if you don't understand it 100%, it's okay. Because there's sometimes I spend an hour and a half just talking in class about this particular topic, because it takes time to really understand it. Because we've spent so much time in our life accumulating a personal existence view. Ever since birth, all of us have been accumulating personal existence view. I don't know what your label is, but every single one of us have a label. My label is David. Right? And now we have this label where we start assigning certain characters, certain personality, who we think we are as a person. All of this accumulates in our mind. In fact, our countries have flags, they have national anthems, they have sports teams. We're taught that I am this, I am American, I am German, I am Chinese, I am an Aussie. Any of this I am. So your mind has been accumulating this for so long, sometimes it's hard for someone to see what it is that I'm describing. But whether you can see this or not at this point, you can independently verify what I'm sharing with you, that there is no self. I'll show you guys how to do this. Think about yourself when you were a child, your teenage years, your early adulthood, and now. The way that you viewed yourself. Has it been exactly the same through these 4 stages of your life, or has it been constantly changing? It's been changing, right? Here's another way. If your arm was amputated, if it was cut off at the shoulder, and you only have one hand and one arm, are you less of a person? She says no. What about you guys? He says no. Are you less of a person if your arm is cut off at the shoulder and you only have one hand and one arm? You're not less of a person, right? So you can see intellectually, you understand that this body is not you. Because otherwise you would answer that question differently. You would say, oh, there's less body, so there's less me, so I'm less of a person. But hardly any people ever answer it that way. Usually people say, no, I'm not less of a person. So you can see that this body is not you. But in the heat of the moment, with your personal existence view, if someone says, wow, you're so beautiful, you're so handsome, that shirt really brings out the colors of your eyes. You're like, wow, they're talking about me, right? But it's only a matter of time before somebody says, where did you get that haircut? Are you going outside looking like that? And now you're frustrated or angry, right? So even though your mind can intellectually understand that this body is not you, that personal existence view in the heat of the moment, you'll have difficulties and struggles where you'll start forming feelings based on what people say about this body. Now, here's a third way that you can independently verify this. Point to yourself. Where are you? Okay, Keisha's pointing there. All right. Anybody else would like to point? Okay, you're pointing there? Yeah, okay. That's a common place. People will oftentimes point here. They'll say, I am here. Well, if you're going to point to this and you're going to point and say, I am here, you need to look at what you're pointing to. You're pointing to a shirt. Ask yourself, is that who you are? That shirt that you're wearing. If you took off the shirt and held it up and pointed to it, is that you? That shirt that you're wearing? That's not you. So let's throw that away. Where are you? And someone might point again. And what you're pointing to at that point is skin. Ask yourself, is that who you are? That skin that you've got? Is that you? That skin? That's not you, right? If we ripped off the skin and we held it up and pointed to it, that's not who you are. So let's throw that away. Where are you? And someone might point again. Now we've got bones, we've got muscle tissue, we've got organs and fluid. None of those bits and pieces and parts are you. But that's what the mind's going to do, is it's going to grab onto this and it's going to think that this is who you are. And the Buddha is explaining to you that none of this stuff is you. It's constantly changing. And if you cling to it, you're just sabotaging your ability to be peaceful and joyful permanently. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and see if you guys have questions on this, because again, this is building blocks to help you understand the Four Noble Truths. Is there anything you guys would like to ask about this? Questions? Yep. It just takes a second to engage once you turn it on. They're Buddhist microphones. You got to be patient with them. Once you see the lights on, they're working.
I wanted to find out, is there any other permanent thing other than enlightenment?
So enlightenment is permanent. It's unconditioned, because by the time you get to enlightenment, it's an unconditioned mental state. And all the qualities of enlightenment, of course, are unconditioned. And then the natural laws. So when I say this, I usually say enlightenment and the natural laws are unconditioned objects. But there's things like unconditional love, right? But I think of that as part of the natural laws and part of the enlightened mental state.
If you talk about the natural laws, like earlier on you talked about gravity, for example, but gravity is certainly not a permanent state.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the natural laws that are permanent?
Yeah, so the natural laws are things like what the Buddha is teaching you is the natural law of karma, of cause and effect. You're going to learn about that as you go. Everything he taught in one way or another comes back to that. That's kind of like the umbrella. But then there's natural laws that he taught underneath of that as well, that you can get exposure to his teachings more and more and more, and you can see these natural laws. We're not talking about gravity. That's not put into the natural laws. The natural laws are things like the natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result. That's what we're talking about, is the teachings of the Buddha that he describes these natural laws. Those are the natural laws we're talking about, because gravity is not permanent, right? Here on Earth, it's one way. On the moon, it's different, right? So we're talking about these natural laws of cause and effect. The natural law of karma is the main natural law, but then there's other natural laws under that, like dependent origination and this here. These are universal truths. This is part of the natural laws.
Will we have the chance to learn more about them during these days?
Yeah, everything that the Buddha taught in one way or another is a natural law. So you're being exposed to these natural laws all the way through your education of the teachings of the Buddha. So these three here, this is part of the natural laws, that the world is impermanent, that there's these conditioned feelings called discontentedness, the universal truth of non-self. This is all part of that collection of natural laws. Mm-hmm. You had a question back there?
Yes. Well, the question is the same as his. Trying to figure it out. I was actually going to ask you for examples on then kind of like the impermanent or natural laws. So it's exactly the same question. I guess to refine, I guess like what I would, at the moment, what my brain is able to kind of like grasp is, okay, so everything is impermanent. Everything is, in this world at least, is conditioned to the dimension of time. And then you have these unchanging, those natural laws that are unchanging, that at the moment, the examples that I can think of is the laws of physics, like thermodynamics, gravity as well, because gravity affects everything. Obviously, it affects it differently. Like, the moon has a different gravity than the Earth. But as much as we know in physics, everything is affected by gravity in different ways, right? So I guess what I'm trying to understand is like, the universal law of physics, the things that we are at the moment trying to, as scientists, understand, right? They've always been there. Gravity has always been there. Newton thought it was ether, and now we know it's a wave, So can I think about those natural laws as the laws of physics? So things that are always been there, and you are affected by them, no matter whether you understand them or not, and they're always there.
Yeah, the natural laws are not, that I'm talking about, are not the laws of physics. The laws of physics, those are constantly changing. They develop new things throughout history, right? So that's all constantly changing. That's not what is the case with the natural laws that the Buddha taught. So that's not what I'm talking about.
I need to ask you, because I don't think I understand the natural laws, but perhaps separately, because
yeah, the natural laws that the Buddha taught, the main natural law is the natural law of karma. Some people call it karma. This is the Sanskrit version, right? You're going to get more and more exposure to that, where it's teaching you cause and effect. That's the main natural law that he's teaching you. That's the law that the vast majority of the world is unawakened to. And because they don't understand that it's certain decisions that they make that lead to a certain result, when people experience certain things happening in their life, they will typically say it's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or they will say it's God or some entity called the universe, or they will blame what they're experiencing on other people, where in reality what they're experiencing is a result of their own decisions. That's the natural law of karma, or some people call it karma. It's just a different language. The original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so I use the word karma. So this is the main natural law. When I reference the natural laws of existence, that's the main natural law of cause and effect. But there's other things underneath of that, like what you're learning here. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Okay. Yep. Anything else? Yep.
Yeah, what you talked about the natural laws, because I'm from China, and in China, like I heard about. I'm not, I never have any deep study about this. Just about my daily life. I know it's like in China, it's Taoism. It also talk about the natural laws. I think it's pretty similar to the Buddhism. And I kind of get what you said about the natural law is, in my interpretation, it's more about philosophy. It's higher than the physics or gravity or something. Yeah, that's what I think. I'm not sure if it's true. But what I don't understand here is about what you said about yourself. You don't accumulate yourself. So if you don't say who I am, then what's the meaning for your life? I mean, because we get the happiness just based on myself, right? So why you don't think yourself is yourself, and it seems like empty? Because in Taoism, they also say that it's empty. Everything is empty. But if you don't recognize yourself as yourself, where all this happiness or all this sadness come from?
That's what you're about to learn now. Yeah. So if you keep going here, you'll be able to hear where the happiness and sadness is coming from. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your happiness isn't based on these types of things. Right now, your happiness is based on this body or this self-image or self-identity that you have in your mind. But that is not going to be permanent happiness. That's why you need to be able to understand that this body is not you, this mind is not you. But there's more time for you to understand that. Like I said, I'm just introducing you to this universal truth of non-self. In the future, you can learn more about it, because at this early stage in your learning, it's not time to dive into it in a lot of detail. So it's just an introduction to it. But here in a moment, you're going to understand why you experience what you experience in terms of happiness and sadness, and then how to transform it to get to the point where you're no longer experiencing the ups and downs. That's not what an enlightened being is experiencing. Their mind is just always cheerful, glad, bright, and uplifted at all times. Okay. So I don't see any other questions. So now there's one more little building block that I need to teach, and then we can explore the Four Noble Truths. So there's something called craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. This is the mind grasping or clinging or holding on to things. This is the way the mind pulls in the direction of the objects of its affection. It's like the mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. It's kind of like an unquenchable thirst that the mind has, that it's chasing after some object. The craving, desire, attachment isn't the object itself. It's the way that the mind is longing, yearning for the object. So if you've ever been in the mall and you saw a brand new pair of shoes and you were like, oh, brand new pair of shoes, I just can't wait to get those. Oh my gosh, they're going to look so good on my feet. Right? This is the craving, not the shoes, but the way the mind is longing, yearning for it. Or it might have been a piece of jewelry, or a new video game, or a new phone, or a new car, or a new house. The mind is longing, yearning, thinking something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind will chase it and chase it and chase it and chase it. This is called craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. Do you guys know what I'm talking about here? Have you seen this with your mind? Yeah? Okay. All right. So now that we have all these building blocks, we can move on to the Four Noble Truths, and I can help you to understand what these are. Okay. So in 4 simple statements, you're going to be able to understand what is the problem in your mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. You can have a real breakthrough here today to being able to understand what's causing your discontent feelings and why you experience anger and sadness and frustration. And by having this breakthrough, you can actually then apply the solution to fix it. So this first one is explaining the problem. Everyone that is unenlightened will experience discontentedness. So those conditioned feelings, that's the problem that you're experiencing, that the mind is forming conditioned feelings. Based on some condition, you're going to experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant. This is the problem that your mind's experiencing, that it's forming its inner feelings on some external thing. Okay, so this is the problem. The mind's going up and down and up and down. The second noble truth is explaining to you the cause of this problem. Discontentedness is caused by our own cravings, desires, attachments, because the mind wants everything to be permanent when everything in the world is impermanent. I'm going to say that a few times, and I'm going to give you some examples. Those discontent feelings, the pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant, is caused by craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection. The mind wants things to be permanent when in reality, everything around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. So here's some examples to help you see this. Think back to maybe getting together with a boyfriend or girlfriend. When you guys first got together, you were probably so happy and excited about that. You have this new person in your life. They're showing you affection. They're calling you and checking in on you. They're inviting you to the movies, to dinner. Maybe you're going to the park, having nice walks together. Maybe you're having great conversations. Maybe you're even having intimate contact. Okay? You're getting all these pleasant feelings based on the condition that you have this new person in your life. But over time, the relationship deteriorates and it falls apart and you guys break up. And now you might be angry and frustrated. You might be lonely and bored or missing this person. This is because your mind's craving desire attachment. You're craving this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, it was always impermanent. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, you guys were going to die and the relationship was going to be over. And now you're going to experience grief and sorrow and sadness. It's not your love or your care that's causing this. It's your mind's craving for permanence. The mind is holding on and craving for this person to be in your life permanently. And as long as you're holding on, you experience those painful feelings because you want something that you don't have. The mind in the unenlightened state can only be happy and get pleasant feelings when you're getting your cravings fulfilled. When you get what you want, the mind gets pleasant feelings. But when you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings or neither painful nor pleasant feelings. Here's another example that doesn't involve relationships. Think if you bought a brand new car and you were so excited about this car and you drove it off the parking lot and you parked it at a store and you went inside the store and you came out and there's a scratch on your car. And you came outside and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a scratch on my car. And you're so angry and frustrated. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. They're not the ones causing you to be angry or frustrated. What's causing the anger and frustration is the craving for permanence. That your mind wants this car to look permanently beautiful when that's not possible. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise in this situation, because obviously when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is going to deteriorate because it's impermanent. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's only a matter of time. If you crave for this car to look permanently beautiful, when it starts changing, your mind's not going to like that. You're going to get angry and frustrated. So one of the ways to say this is that the mind craves permanence. That's one of the ways to say that. But another way to say this is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. When things are changing in your life, it's very difficult for the unenlightened mind. You can look at your life when you were changing living locations, when you were changing jobs or occupations, when you were changing relationships. Those were some of the biggest challenges and struggles for you in life. And when your mind doesn't understand this second noble truth, you will tend to blame other people for the feelings that you experience. You'll think it's mom and dad that are making you angry, or brothers and sisters are frustrating you. Your boss is annoying you, or something like this. Your life partner or your children. It's not those people that are causing your anger and frustration. Now, they might be doing something that's unwise, but that's not what's causing your anger and frustration. The mind says, I want everybody to do it this way. And if they do it this way, I'm happy. But if they don't do it that way, then I'm going to be angry or frustrated or sad. This is the mind craving permanence. And not everybody in the world's going to do things exactly the same because of impermanence. But the mind craves permanence. And when you don't understand the second noble truth, your mind will tend to become unskillful. You'll firmly believe that it's somebody else that's causing these feelings. Because what I'm teaching you is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. But when you firmly believe that it's somebody else that's causing these feelings, you will tend to push them away. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life because you attribute these painful feelings to this other person, and you think the way to solve the problem is to push them out of your life. Right? Or you might push a situation out of your life. Or the second thing you'll do is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear them into doing things your way. Or the third thing you'll do is you'll tend to put your expectations on people, trying to control them or pressure them to do things your way. And in this way, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. Right? That's what this course is all about, helping you to understand how to develop harmony in your relationships. It's only a matter of time if you spend time with someone. It's only a matter of time before you start seeing that they do things differently than you. That's why at the beginning of the relationship, it's going wonderful. You don't know this person very well, and you don't actually have any expectations of them. The only thing you're interested in is to get to know them. So early on in the relationship, everything's going wonderful. But as you get deeper into this relationship, you start seeing that they're doing things differently than you. And your mind doesn't like that because it craves permanence. And this is why you start having arguments and you're frustrated and you're angry because you're wanting them to do it a certain way and they don't do it that way. So as long as you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you can't live harmoniously with all beings because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something differently than you and your mind gets angry or frustrated. And you'll end up wanting to push them aside. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, damaging your relationships, or you'll pressure them and try to convince them to do it your way, and they don't like that, and they might choose to leave out of your relationship. So if you're interested in getting to harmony in your relationships, you're going to need to understand what's causing the disharmony, what's causing the painful feelings. It's not the other person that's causing this. Now, again, they might be doing something that's unwise, but it's not what's causing your anger and frustration. So you can peer through this and you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Here's how you do it, because that was the intellectual learning that I just shared with you. Now reflect on this. Take a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that with these fresh eyes. At the time, you might have been looking for someone else to blame because that's what the mind usually does. But look at it with these fresh eyes, with this newfound wisdom. What was it that you wanted? What did you expect? What were you longing, yearning for? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because your mind didn't get what it wanted or what it expected, you were angry or frustrated or sad. If you can see this, you can have a real breakthrough. But if you can't see it, let me know and I will help you. I've had plenty of students that have needed help over the years. I can give you story after story of different situations if you like. So let me know if you guys need help to be able to see that it's your own mind causing these feelings. Because I'm sure you've been in knockdown, drag out arguments before with people where you've been trying to adamantly convince them to stop doing what they're doing or else you're going to get angry. I know you have. That's what people do, right? You're probably in there like fighting like cats and dogs, trying to convince that person to stop doing that thing, or else you're going to continue to get angry. But that's the mind's lack of wisdom that it has, thinking and believing that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated, where in reality, it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Think back to when we were a child. We went to our mom and dad. Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? Sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate. Oh, thank you, Mommy. You're so great. You're the wonderful. Thank you. This is great. Oh, you're the best mommy ever. And then the second day, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? Sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. Wow, thank you so much, Mommy and Daddy. Right? You're so happy. You're excited because you're getting what you want. But on the third day, You say, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? No, you can't have chocolate and ice cream. You're the worst mommy and daddy ever, right? This is because your craving didn't get fulfilled, right? Ever since we were a child, our mind's been doing this, but the mind lacks wisdom. That's why the Buddha helps you to be able to see what's truly causing these feelings. And it's very empowering. It's not about blame or fault. That's not what it's about. It's about seeing that it's your own mind. It's about seeing true reality. And when you can see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, it's very empowering because now you can actually fix it. Whereas if it's everybody else that's causing these feelings, you'll go around the world trying to fix everybody else. You'll be trying to convince other people to do things your way. So instead, there's actually only one mind that you need to train. Instead of trying to teach 8 billion people to do things your way, there's only one mind that you need to train. Do you know whose mind that is that you need to train? Yeah, that's the only one you're capable of training. And that's going to be challenging enough, right? So your workload just got really reduced here, right? So once you understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, then you can understand the third noble truth. The elimination of discontentedness is possible by eliminating cravings, desires, attachments. If you eliminate the cause of the feeling, then you eliminate the feeling. Right? If you eliminate the cause, you eliminate the effect. So once you understand from the second noble truth that it's craving, desire, attachment that's causing these feelings, well, if you eliminate that, you actually eliminate the cause. And sometimes when I talk about eliminating craving, desire, attachment, people are like, hold on a second, David, if I'm not chasing after things, won't I swing all the way to the other side? Well, you might, but that's not what the Buddha is actually teaching you. He's teaching you to come to the middle, where you can gradually pursue your goals and objectives with ambition and enthusiasm and motivation. But your mind doesn't know how to do that in the unenlightened state. It's just used to chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. And then if you're not doing that, you'll usually swing to the other side. But that's the two extremes that the unenlightened mind tends to do. What the Buddha is doing is inviting you to come to the middle, where you can see that there's peace and joy here by gradually pursuing your goals, objectives, or interests and not forming your feelings based on these things. So you can independently verify the third noble truth too, that when you eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, you experience peace and you experience joy. You don't have discontentedness. Because think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you broke up with. At some point, your mind let go. Right? Because craving, desire, attachment, you'll hold on to things very tight, right? But at some point, your mind let go. You eliminated your craving. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace came back. Or you were like, you know what? If she wants to live in a different part of the world, okay, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back, right? But your mind doesn't know how to let go in the unenlightened state. That's where the fourth noble truth comes in. The path to eliminating discontentedness is the Eightfold Path. This is the complete perfect plan that's going to guide you in how to completely transform your mind. It starts with right view. What right view is having the right view of what's really causing these feelings, that it's your own mind. That if you have wrong view, you're going to be blaming other people for the feelings that you have. And then why would you even learn these teachings? Because everybody else is causing your anger and frustration. They're the ones who should be here, not you, right? So if you had wrong view, why even continue to learn? But that's why the Buddha starts you with the very first teaching of right view, that you need to have the right view of the world, of understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So this is right view is the Four Noble Truths, understanding that it's craving, desire, attachment, the mind's longing, yearning that is causing these feelings. And now, instead of being angry or frustrated and blaming it on other people, you can actually start looking inward and you can start looking to see, what am I craving here? What am I longing, yearning for? You show up to the airport, and maybe when you show up to the ticket counter, you think your flight's leaving in about an hour and you're going to check in. And the person at the ticket counter says, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry, ma'am. Your flight's delayed. You can't even check in yet. It's going to be another 3 hours before you can leave and check in. And maybe you notice the anger and frustration coming up, right? Well, instead of sitting in the waiting room and waiting for your flight and being angry and frustrated and blaming the airline company, instead look inward. What am I craving here? What am I longing, yearning for? Oh, I see. I want to get to Thailand and eat some mango and sticky rice. I'm really craving that mango and sticky rice. I just can't wait to get there. And I thought I was going to be on the plane and headed to Thailand, right? Or I really want to get those massages that they have, right? If you can see that craving, that longing, yearning, you can let it go. And now you can gradually choose to go get your mango and sticky rice and go get your massages, but you don't have to long and yearn for it and form your feelings based on it. So this is how you practice right view, is that you actually look inward to see, what am I craving? What am I longing, yearning for here? Because if you can let that go, that's going to allow your mind to get to peace and joy. And if you do that enough, eventually there will be no anger and frustration that arises. So next, I'm going to teach you guys right intention. But before I do, since right view is so important, I'd like to see if you guys have any questions on the Four Noble Truths. Anything you guys would like to ask? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, you don't have to hold it.
Okay, thank you. In the beginning, you said that no. Maybe if we have
It's on. The signal's just impermanent.
I know. Maybe we have a relationship to a life partner.
Mm-hmm.
You said we should I don't know the word. Choose wise,
Mm-hmm.
because he has an impact on us.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say now we have to learn to not to change somebody, and the 3 rules for the best relationship is that he you remember the article you sent me. There was 3 rules.
Mm-hmm.
The first was
Yeah, so she's talking about an article that I sent her that I wrote that is the 3 criteria that are needed for a successful life partnership. The 3 criteria, the first one is that the person is not thinking that they're perfect,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The second one is that they're not blaming you for the feelings that they're experiencing. And the third one is that they're willing to get help to be able to experience improvement in their life.
Yes, and when I have the desire that
Mm-hmm.
my partner need help or wanted to get help, isn't it to change him, not to accept what he is doing or what he is?
It's about understanding wise decision making in this natural law of karma, of what are the decisions that you're making that's leading to a certain result, right? So if you make a decision to say have a life partner who, let's just say they were a thief and they're stealing, or they're having sexual misconduct where they're having sex with multiple people, including you, or let's just say they're lying, or they're taking substances like drugs or alcohol, right? If you make those choices to have someone in your life like that, it's going to impact you, because now you're going to experience police showing up at your door. There's going to be lawyer fees. There's going to be potentially sexually transmitted diseases. There's going to be people maybe who are jealous and showing up and wanting to fight you or kill you or something like this. This is how the choices that you make about a life partner are impacting you, right? So you need to be able to understand wise decision making about what would be wise for me in terms of selecting a partner. Because when this person starts to make decisions and my life is involved with their life, it's going to affect me. So what we teach is your goal here isn't to change other people, but instead to make wise choices for yourself. And it doesn't mean in a life partnership that you wouldn't contribute to your partner's life and help them if they're open to that help. But what you're not interested in doing is giving unsolicited guidance or unsolicited help. But if we can talk about this at another time, because it's not really connected to this, because we have a point in time in our course where we're going to talk about life partners, but you're not interested in forcing others to try to change and do things your way. But instead, you would like to know what's wise and unwise and make those wise decisions. And now it'll produce wholesome results for you. But you'll learn more about this when we get to that part of the course. Okay. All right, so this is the Four Noble Truths. You guys are going to need to be able to penetrate into this and see this truth for yourself, right? I can teach it to you. I can help you understand it, but you've got to independently verify and see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because we walk around so long with this lack of wisdom, thinking that it's everyone else who's causing these feelings. And as long as you do that, you'll never actually solve this, okay? So the next step is right intention. Each one of these don't take the same amount of time to teach. This one is actually really straightforward, really easy. So here's the words of the Buddha. In what, monks, is right intention? The intention of renunciation, the intention of non-ill will, the intention of harmlessness. This, monks, is called right intention. Right? So some people translate this as right thinking or right thought. This is the right intention, where you're forming this intention in your mind to have renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. What the intention of renunciation is where you have the willingness to let go of your false ideas, your false beliefs, your false opinions, and false views, as well as your unwholesome moral conduct. Because in the unenlightened state, you have a certain amount of unwholesome moral conduct, that you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to some people around you. Okay, so if you don't have the intention of renunciation, then that means your mind is closed and you're not willing to have an open mind to be able to bring new ideas and new thoughts into your life. So you're going to need to have the intention or the willingness to let go of your false ideas, false opinions, false views, and false beliefs. Because if you're currently experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings, there's certain false ideas, false beliefs, false opinions, and views that you have in your mind. That's the lack of wisdom that the mind has. One of the very first false beliefs that you need to be willing to eliminate out of your mind is the belief that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated. That's a belief that we hold on to for a very long time. If you're not willing to let that go, to renunciate it, then you're never going to get to enlightenment. You're not going to experience this improvement, because you need to cultivate wisdom. So you're not getting rid of your false beliefs by bringing in new beliefs. You're actually bringing in wisdom. And when you bring in wisdom and you see that it conflicts with things that you've believed your entire life, you've got to be willing to get rid of those beliefs, right? Because with belief, you don't know it's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. So when you bring in wisdom and you see it conflicts with this belief that you've held all along, you've got to be willing to let that go. That's the intention of renunciation, and letting go of your unwholesomeness, because there's a certain amount of unwholesome moral conduct that you need to be willing to let go of. Then you need to have the intention or the thinking or the thought of non-ill will. What ill will is bitterness, harshness, and hostility. Non-ill will is a double negative. And in English, whenever you see a double negative, this is actually a positive, right? So this is having the intention of goodwill, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. That's what you need to cultivate here. And then the intention of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Because anytime you cause harm, harm is going to come back to you. Now, what I just taught you is that you cause your own discontent feelings. You cause your own anger and frustration. It's the same thing that is true for other people. So if other people are blaming you for their anger and frustration, you're not causing that. You can't cause somebody else to be angry or frustrated, but you can cause them harm. Causing someone harm would be to cause harm to their physical body, their material possessions, or their reputation. If you cause harm to someone's physical body, their material possessions, or their reputation, there's going to be harm that comes to you. That harm is going to come back. So that's why the Buddha is teaching you to form the intention or the thinking or the thought of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm. Because how can you ever get to this peaceful and joyful mental state if all this harm is coming back to you, right? So you've got to eliminate your harm that you're causing others so that then there's no harm that's coming back to you. Okay? So let me just summarize these two, and then we'll take a little break after this. So right view is the Four Noble Truths: accepting responsibility for your own feelings, intentions, speech, and actions. This is where you're looking inward and realizing that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. You need to accept responsibility for this, because oftentimes people blame others for what it is that they're experiencing. Then right intention is to have the intention or the thinking or the thought of renunciation, where you're willing to let go your false ideas, false beliefs, false opinions and views, and your unwholesomeness. There's a certain amount of unwholesome moral conduct that you have right now in the interactions that you have with others, and you need to be willing to let that go. And then you need the intention of non-ill will, or you need to cultivate the intention of loving kindness or goodwill in the mind, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And then you're going to need to have the intention of harmlessness, or where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Because as long as you're causing harm, harm is going to come back to you. So do you guys have any questions on this here, right view and right intention?
Yeah, I have a question. You gave this example of belief, and then you used the word wisdom. So if wisdom gives you a new insight, then you would, basically eliminate your previous belief if you come to the conclusion that it's not valid any longer. So I'm asking you whether there's a difference in the word belief and wisdom, because wisdom, in my opinion, is just your current belief. And as new wisdom comes, your previous wisdom is basically eliminated. So there's really, in my perception so far, there's no difference between belief and wisdom, in only that wisdom is your current state of belief.
Okay.
Is that right?
No, these are two vastly different things. With belief is, again, you just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. What wisdom is something that you've independently verified, and that is independently verifiable by others, that you've verified it through direct experience in the world. So, for example, the universal truth of impermanence, you can cultivate the wisdom to be able to see that everything around you is impermanent. You can verify that. Other people can verify that. And then once you verify it, you can 100% confirm that this is new wisdom, that now you understand the world is definitely impermanent. Same thing with discontentedness and non-self. Each of these types of things you can independently verify, and now you have wisdom. Craving, it's causing discontentedness. You can independently verify that, and so can other people. And now this is wisdom. This isn't a belief. This is something that you've independently verified. These beliefs are just something that someone's convinced themselves to believe. They haven't actually independently verified it. And that's the difference here.
I'm a researcher. So in research, you make your own experiences and you gradually develop new knowledge. And that's a way that you explained, like I could independently verify something, but it's not possible to independently verify everything because I only have so much time to validate and so much opportunity to independently validate. It's why also I depend on the experiences of others to learn from them. I'm learning from you, the teaching here. So maybe I accept it now, but it's the way you explained the development of wisdom. That's how empirical research is explained. And empirical research learns from new knowledge, and it's not permanent.
Yeah, you're confusing things here. I'm not talking about science, because science is only as good as the next experiment that proves what you just think you discovered is actually untrue. In that situation, you haven't fully explored all the information that's available, and someone's come to a false conclusion. It's not fully been independently verified. What I'm talking about is independently verifying the teachings here. You can independently verify these with 100% certainty. You verify it through the intellectual learning first, then you reflect on it in your day-to-day life and through your direct experience, then you practice it. You train your mind through this wisdom. And then when you see that your mind's experiencing the peace and the joy, that's how you know that it's true, 100% certainty, because you wouldn't have been able to get to the peace and the joy without these things being true. So you start with the intellectual learning, you move to the reflection to be able to verify through your own direct experience, but then you practice and you uproot these pollutions out of the mind. And now as you see more and more peace, more and more joy, because you'll be in situations where you were once angry and frustrated, and now you're no longer angry and frustrated. And it's because you've eliminated the underlying craving. And that's how you independently verify through your own direct experience, it is craving that causes these discontent feelings, because when I eliminated my craving, I'm not angry anymore. So you do it intellectually first to learn, you then reflect, and then you practice. But in the science field, they're not doing the same thing in the same way. So here you can independently verify with 100% certainty, and you can get to that wisdom where your mind is unshakable. So for example, does Santa Claus exist? Do you know Santa Claus?
I know Santa Claus. When I was a young boy, I believed that Santa Claus existed.
Right.
Because I was making the experience that Santa Claus gave presents. And so I independently verified to 100% that Santa Claus existed.
No, Santa Claus, you had certain experiences where someone convinced you that Santa Claus existed. Because remember, when I defined belief, I said it's either something that someone convinced you to believe or you convinced yourself to believe it. So you believed that Santa Claus existed because somebody convinced you to believe it, and partially you convinced yourself to believe it. But as you became an adult, you saw the truth, and now you have wisdom. There's no way that anybody could ever convince you that there's a big guy in a red suit with a gray beard that goes around the world and delivers presents to every single child in a 24-hour period. There's no way that anybody could ever convince you of that. You have wisdom that you've independently verified that this is not true. That's what we're talking about. And that's what you can ultimately get to with these teachings.
The individuals that originally told me that there would be Santa Claus and that shared the belief that he existed, these were the same people that also told me after I was growing up that it was invented, a story invented. So I didn't independently validate one or the other. In both cases, I had trust in what I was told.
You believed it. You believed it. You didn't independently verify it. And now what we're talking about is what's the difference between belief and what's the difference between wisdom? With Santa Claus, you believed it. And that's what I'm saying, that you can easily be shaken up when you have belief. Because I don't know about you, but when I found out Santa Claus didn't exist, I was very shaken up because I was operating through belief. But once I had wisdom, you can't be shaken up when you have wisdom. So what you need to be able to get to is to have wisdom about the world around you. And you need to understand that because you currently experience anger and sadness and frustration and all these other feelings, your mind isn't currently fully cultivated with wisdom. What we call that is final knowledge. When you get to the point where your mind's completely transformed and you no longer experience anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings, it'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you're not experiencing these feelings, you will have attained final knowledge because now you've implemented all these teachings and you see the complete transformation to your mind. And you will know with 100% certainty that these teachings are true because you would have verified countless teachings along the way in order to get to that point where your mind's now experiencing complete peace and complete joy. That's not where you are right now. You're just asking what's the difference between belief and wisdom. Wisdom is something you've independently verified. And I've explained to you the process of doing that. That's not what you're doing right now. But what you can do is intellectually learn something. You can reflect on it to verify if it's true or false, and then you can practice it. And that's where you ultimately get to final knowledge and you can see the wisdom for yourself. That's not something you're going to do sitting here in a classroom right now. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little break here for you guys. It's 20 minutes after 11. So let's take a 15-minute break. I guess that would be, what is that, 11:35? And we'll come back and I'll explain to you the rest of, actually, let me do this. Hold on a second. This is the way I've done this in the past. This conversation went a little bit longer than normal, which is fine. You know, we can go wherever we need to go on this course. But one of the things that I've done in the past is we've taken an early lunch. And then when we come back, then I finish up the Eightfold Path. Are you guys interested in an early lunch? Yeah, you're shaking your head. Yeah. Would that work out for you guys? Because it'll actually help us to be able to make sure that we can teach everything today. So why don't we do that? So let's just call this 11:30. Let's take an early lunch and we'll come back at, let's see, 1 o'clock. If we come back at 1 o'clock, that'll be an hour and a half lunch. And then I can finish up the entire Eightfold Path after lunch. Sound good for you guys? Okay. So enjoy your lunch and I'll see you guys at 1 o'clock. Okay. So all of you guys online, we're going to pick it up in an hour and a half. All right. Take care.